question. You recently went on a trip to Indonesia, and you just came back. How long did that trip last?
It was a rather short trip. I had only planned on seeing John and then going over to see another gentleman, Lawrence Blair, that lives in Bali. And it was just kind of like a business trip, so it didn't, I wasn't planning on anything, that would be fun. It was just all business.
Okay.
It was a short trip. It lasted, 7 days, 8 days.
Okay. Lawrence Blair is the same gentleman from the documentary, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How is he doing?
Oh, he's doing great. He shared with me that he was currently involved in working out this something with producers on a new movie, in fact, that his brother had written a number of years ago. And I looked at the script, and it was pretty interesting.
Okay, so this would not be a documentary, or would this be an actual cinema movie, like a...
It would be a cinematic movie.
Normal script, plot, characters, okay?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing more about Mopai, or the same subject matter, or don't you know?
Are you talking about discussing the Mopai with Lawrence?
Yeah.
Not really. He just wanted to know how John was doing. He hasn't had much contact with him for some time. However, he is in contact a little more often with one of John's closest friends, who happens to become a close friend of Lawrence's. So he wanted to know how, or if I had seen him, and I hadn't.
Can you describe, give the lowdown on what all happened during this trip, what you experienced?
Okay. It was pretty frustrating. I had been having a little difficulty communicating with my teacher for some time, and there's some background that's really involved as to why this has occurred. But I determined that it would be best to just show up on his doorstep, and that way there wouldn't be any problems with trying to make excuses or anything like that. So I just showed up on his doorstep, or at his front door, and he was sitting there with several other people, and he looked at me really surprised when I was standing by his door was open. And so just to have somebody like that to show up, from the other side of the world, I think could be a little alarming. But he seemed kind of startled, but he got up and greeted me, and his first question it was, "How old are you?" So I'm used to that, because he always says things like that. Where are you staying? The first questions out of his mouth when I see him are funny things like that. So he caught me off guard a little bit with that, and so I wanted to ease up in my questions that I had. So we sat down and started talking, just passing what had been going on lately and things like that after a period of time that we hadn't seen each other. And then all of a sudden he said, "Excuse me, I have to leave for a minute." So he went and got dressed and came back, and he said, "I have to go to the bank. I'll be back in 10 minutes. And so I said, "Fine, whatever you need to do." And I was anticipating that he would be coming back, but when he goes to the bank, it's kind of a long period of time, so I knew that it would be some time before he came back. So his son had come in and sat down, and we conversed for about an hour. And so John didn't come back, and then his son said that he had some people there that he needed to get back to, and so we left. And then so we called later in the day to see when he would be available, and his son told me that he had just left with a friend on a business trip, and they wouldn't be back until the following day, which meant that we were going to be in Bali going over to visit with Lawrence, and we were going to be over there for about 3 days. So that was that. And so before I left, I had mentioned that I wanted to see the meditation center that John had built in his backyard, which is an underground center for meditating. And he had built that in 2001, I believe. I'm not sure exactly. And where a lot of some of the unusual things that had occurred that had to do with his ancestor spirit. And so I had always been curious, so I went over and saw that. But I was anticipating coming back and getting pictures, and so I didn't take anything because we were kind of ushering out, and so that was that. But as far as pictures, when we came back after visiting Lawrence, John had left again, and he was going to be gone for another 3 days. So that just burned everything. So I was really disappointed with that. So I didn't get really any pictures.
Okay, no footage or anything?
Nope.
Okay. Well, that's just how it goes. Okay. What did you observe with John? Anything going on as far as his practice nowadays? I mean, anything of note with regards to Mopai?
He is actually out of it. He is no longer involved with the Mopai.
Okay.
However, he is involved only in the aspect of doing some testing, which the person that took over the school is an old student that isn't at the fourth or the third level, and he is unable to do any testing, so he has to rely on John, and so that's the only part that John is involved in. But one of the things of note that really probably doesn't mean too much to anybody else, but I noticed that John seemed overall relieved. He seemed less stressed than what I had known about him before. So, and I attribute that to his retirement and lack of being involved with the school.
Okay, so what is the reason, or can you go into the reason or reasons why Chang is no longer involved in Mopai?
He had admitted Westerners into the school, and that is not something that he was supposed to do. The reason why he did was because the lack of students, and the student that took over the school had left prior to that, and so he was sort of left wondering what he was going to do. And then all of a sudden one day I showed up on his doorstep, and he thought maybe this could work out, but he was in hot water for doing that, and then removed as head of the Mopai.
Okay, now, was it his ancestor spirit who made that decision then?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell a little about the ancestor spirit of Chang, how that individual, how that entity figures into this?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story. John's teacher, Lau, had passed away, and John had needed to continue talking with him, and didn't realize that he had finally moved on to some other realm, and he kept trying to get a hold of him, and he never would respond. And then his ancestor spirit, the Grand Master, Mei Yang Chen, showed up unexpectedly and told John in no uncertain terms that what he was doing wrong, and reminded him of the things that he had promised and so on. And for whatever reason, I have no idea why, but John continued to ignore that and continued teaching me, as well as accepting a few more Westerners. It's really strange as to why he would do that, but he did without letting us know, the repercussions that he was facing and so on. So that's what got him to be removed from the head of the school.
Okay, so the trip came and went. There was very little contact with Chang, and then what happened?
And then I had been trying to locate without any luck. Actually, I had talked to probably 3 of the current Indonesian Mopai students via email, and none of them were all too willing to help me with anything, give me answers or whatever. Some were polite, and others were, one of them that was kind of rude, but I just assumed they were a little bit jealous because I had reached that level and they had not. And they just, culturally speaking, they probably felt like they're, I don't know, like I'm an outsider or something like that. And so it was difficult getting any information out of them.
Okay. Is this kind of based or rooted in Indonesian culture that they have limited contact with Westerners or share limited information with Westerners?
Yeah, they're an isolated school. Historically speaking, it's always been Chinese. And then John's immediate teacher, Lau, had migrated to Indonesia and tried to, I don't know whether he tried, but he accepted 2 students. And John claims that he doesn't believe that Lau had any more than that. And I really don't know, other than just what John has told me. So we're kind of limited on that information, as far as John letting us know what's going on.
Okay, in previous contacts that you had with Chang, what are some of the more remarkable things that you witnessed from him?
Oh, in terms of his abilities?
Yes.
Oh, well, the list goes on. Well, see, the first time, I'll start in order. The first time that I had met John, I was sitting down next to him, and after our initial discussion and asking him if I could be accepted as a student, he said yes, and so I immediately asked him if he would demonstrate his electrical ability on me, and so, which he was only too happy to oblige, and to the delight of the other people in the room. And so he shocked me, and naturally you jump, and everybody laughed in unison. And then the reason why I know specifically, that what ability that he has is authentic was he was sitting next to me, and sometimes, when you talk, you put your hand on their arm to make a point or something like that, and that's what I did. I was making a point, and I just touched his arm a little bit, and immediately I was shocked. And so I know that he wasn't ready for it, and there wasn't any pre-planned little system that he had set up that some people think that John has. But anyways, it made everybody laugh in the room again because it's pretty alarming when you get zapped. And then, let's see, that was the end of that. I went home and started training. Then I went back. John had left for 3 years for his own training in Borneo. And then when he came back, let's see, this was back in '93, so it's a little foggy as to the sequences of things that he did. One was levitation, where he brought a scale out, and he put that on the floor. He doesn't have full levitation ability, but he has a partial. And when I say that, it's basically because he hasn't reached that level where he trains for that. But inadvertently, from his other training, gives him this ability. But in order to do kind of a 90% levitation, it takes him about a week or so to train to get to that point. But anyways, just a small demonstration he can demonstrate on a scale where he just stands on it, and you can watch the scale weight go down, which he did. And we could clearly see that there was nothing around that he could put his hands on, but you can see that he uses a method of a type of isometric muscle tension thing, and you can watch the weight go down, which is pretty fantastic to see. And he loses about 80% of his weight or so, depending on how much strength that he puts into the effort. And then, let's see, after that, he came to visit his daughter, which I flew down to California to visit with him. Let's see, I'm not sure if it was then or the following year when he came back to visit his daughter again after she had her baby. But either one, it doesn't matter. He had wanted to show me how he could burn a hole in a cup from a distance, like a laser. He said, he was telling me that the energy is like a laser. And so he burned this plastic cup from a distance, probably about, I'd say, close to 9 or 10 feet. And it was across the room. And then he had taken a banana and wanted to show me the strength of the energy, how it could cut through the flesh. But if you have something porous like the skin of the banana, it would pass through it. And so he took a banana and demonstrated, and then he peeled it back, and the top part fell off. And it was pretty interesting how the mechanics or the characteristics of the energy, how it interacts with matter. So that was another example. And then one time we were in the house, and he wanted to show us how he could hold water in a upside-down container where the water wouldn't spill out, being held only by his energy. And then to demonstrate that that there was nothing but energy holding the water, he would take these little wooden matchsticks, and he would put it at the bottom of the water, and the matches would float to the top. So it would demonstrate that there was nothing holding it other than his energy, which was pretty remarkable. And then when he took his hand away, the water came out. It was pretty interesting. Then, I'm kind of foggy. I can't remember all the things that he's done. Okay, there was one time I was helping him do his acupuncture, and there was a Western woman that was being treated, and she was interested in some of the things, and he said, well, I'll demonstrate. So we went into another room, and he had he went and got a little box. I can't remember what it was, and he set it on the floor about, I'd say 15 feet approximately from him, and then he kneeled down on the ground and put his palm on, the bottom of his hand, where the wrist is, on the floor, and then his palm was facing moving towards the box. And you could see that he was putting his energy into it, and all of a sudden that box just flew back to his palm, just right back into his hand, like somebody threw a ball at him. And that was pretty amazing, because it was so spontaneous. There was no time for him to set anything up if it was fake or anything like that. And when you see things like that, it really makes a believer out of you. And then another time, he was demonstrating the charismas, the energy that is possessed in these certain charismas. These are the knives that are real famous throughout certain parts of Asia, and he wanted to demonstrate how that they could move, So he had sat down next to them, and you could tell that he was speaking to these in a very low tone. And all of a sudden, the whole case and the knife just started moving. And you kind of wonder, because you've seen magicians do certain things, and basically some of them are using tricks and magnets and things like that. And so you sort of think, well, in terms of that, and then he goes another step. He takes the knife out and he put it on top of the whatever you call the holder of the knife, and he put that directly on top. And then he spoke to the knife in low terms again, and the thing started spinning. The knife then started turning on top of the case, which was really strange. And then you could tell that he wasn't blowing on it because he was far enough away, and I'm standing probably 2 feet away, and as a number of other people are. And you could see that he was speaking rather than blowing, which is pretty unique. And the thing was moving, and then when he closed his mouth and he wasn't talking, it continued moving. And then he took it off the case, and he put the knife blade facing to go back into it, and then he spoke to the knife again, and the knife went right back into its case, which is, again, it was really startling to see that. Let's see, I can't recall anything else offhand at the moment. That was about it.
What would you have to say to some critics or skeptics who say, well, these are just sleight of hand tricks? I mean, besides what you already said, what would your response be to extreme skeptics?
Well, to be honest with you, I've just sort of dialed them out. You're going to have those no matter what. You can whack them in the head and do all sorts of things, and they're still going to be skeptical. So I've just sort of learned to avoid them and, let them alone. They can believe what they want to believe. And, and it takes people, you need to be an adventurous person in life to get out to see what really is in the world. And for me to go around the world, on a whim, it takes a certain personality to do that, because there's a lot of people that just wish they could do it and, just continue sitting on a couch doing whatever they're doing. And those are the people that just don't find out about things in life. They're the ones that seem to be the skeptics, that, well, if you can't convince me, then it's not real. And so I just sort of avoid that. Sorry about the answer, but that's just how I feel. I just avoid them.
Yeah, it sort of matches my own experience. I mean, nothing you say can really convince them otherwise. But your own experience is your own experience, so you don't tend to question it. But anyway, what are you up to nowadays with regards to Mopai, and what level are you?
I am currently, I should say, I am at the 3rd level. They have a level system, and it goes like this: level 1, and then there's 2B, or 2A, and then there's 2B, and then there's level 3. And level 3 is the level where the yin-yang are fused together, and you can begin, working on the development of attaining those strange abilities people see all the time.
Okay, so it's not until level 3, actual obtaining level 3, that people can really accomplish some of the things that John Chang has been seen doing in his videos.
Exactly.
Okay.
And up to that point, the Mopai system is just continually developing. And in comparison to Qigong systems, they seem to go through the levels rather quickly, so they don't really build, the power in those first levels. They just seem to go through first level, and then they get to the next one, the next one, the next one, and keep going. And we're kind of stuck in those first few levels for a long time, and all of that is accumulating the energy and packing it into Dantian, and then that's what gives the Mopai so much power. And so I'm still working on the 2B level. it was interesting to know because I had heard from several of the multi-Indonesian students that the student that took over the school was training to develop or attain the third level. And so for years I thought that, and then I just found out that that wasn't true, that he was still at the 2B level. So I don't know why he hasn't done it or passed that level to go on to the third level yet. I have no idea.
Okay, is there anyone who is capable or willing to test you to so you can obtain the level 3?
At this moment, it's difficult to say. There's so many things in the way that are causing problems for me to do that. I received a letter from John in 2003, or actually it was 2005, excuse me, and he said that he's no longer, teaching, and that Westerners were out. However, they're allowed to learn the first 2 levels, and but from that point, I've just been training on my own, and he said to continue training. So I don't know what his plans are, or if he's ever going to be coming back, or if the person that took over the school is going to open it up to Westerners. I kind of doubt that he is, but that doesn't mean that it's over, because I just recently got some information on the school that's still in China. It's a kind of a, I guess, hidden school, and but it was the lineage school from which our teachers came from. We had Lao, who was John's teacher, and then his teacher was Pollock Nin, and then his teacher is the ancestor spirit that came back, but he was in China. Anyways, that lineage is still in existence over there, and so that's where I'm going. I'm going to be doing research over there.
Okay, so this would be in China, you said?
Exactly.
Right, so you know the location, and you know the constituents, the teachers over there?
I do not know the teachers yet. I know the location, and so I'm going to have to spend some time doing research there, which will probably happen in possibly another year and a half or so, because I have a Korean wife, and we have to go and visit her family in Korea. So while we're doing that, I'm just going to go over to China, because it's just right next door.
Okay. There is a short video clip on YouTube already of a gentleman. You see him from the back. He apparently is undergoing testing with John Chang, and he is knocking a couple of, looks like, cardboard boxes from a distance. He's knocking them over, and it's purportedly you. I mean, for the record, is this you in the video?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And when did that occur?
That was in 2000. Actually, I visited with John twice because he had come to visit his daughter. Once was in June, and then the next time he came was in November. But the June one was the actual filming there, and those were 3 VHS boxes that he had put up there.
Okay, and this was part of the testing to get to level what?
This was to pass your second level.
Okay, yes.
So now that I passed, then you go on to the next level and you train until you pass that one. So anyways, at this level, I am considered in the MOPI system to be at the highest gang development.
Okay. When you did the testing, is it accurate to say that Chang, for lack of a better word, assisted you? That he gave some of his energy to your other half?
Oh, okay. Yes. How it works is my yin isn't balanced or developed properly yet, and so when you test, you're actually utilizing some of his yin energy because it emanates beyond his body. It probably projects, 15, 20 feet. I can't tell you exactly. But the reason why I know is because I had to go to the bathroom, and I went into the bathroom, and I was in there, and I thought, I wonder if I can do this inside here, away from him, which I did, and I moved these little, soap boxes that were in the bathroom, which was kind of fun. But you actually utilized the emanating energy to replace what you haven't developed yet, and then you can perform that.
Okay, so his physical presence is necessary for students of that level to be able to perform the test.
Exactly.
Okay, so it emanates from him, you said, about maybe 20-foot radius then?
I am just guessing. I haven't tested it. I don't know, and I guess we've never really discussed that.
Okay. What does the next level up mean to you in layman's terms?
It means quite a bit, because that's the the magic level where you finally combine the two energies, and then you're capable of going from there. And in other words, all the groundwork is done. It's like in martial arts, you reach your black belt now. It's the real training starts. And so then you can you don't have any of the groundwork anymore, and you just start working on all the abilities. Now, attaining each ability, it's difficult to say. However, I've been able to sort of judge by time that my teacher was gone in Borneo, which he was intending to go for 5 years, but he was only able to work 3 years. His son had a life-threatening problem, and so he had to leave early. But during the 3 years that he was there, he attained 2 levels, because he went there as level 18 and came home level 20. So in 3 years, he had attained 2 levels. Now, this training that he did is a 24-hour thing where he goes into these meditation states and completely oblivious to his surroundings and what's going on. And so when I train now, I don't have that much time to devote unless I went away, something like he did. So it's harder for us to get that deep in training, and because of that, he was able to do 2 levels in 3 years. Another thing of note is he had mentioned to me a number of years ago. He said that I could actually reach level 3 in 5 years, and that would be based on the way he trains, where it's 24 hours a day.
Okay, so in other words, in order to get that sort of fast track or accelerated learning, you have to go out in some remote location and spend a great deal of time in nature. Is that correct?
I don't think it's necessary to go out in nature. Just as long as you have some place that's quiet, that that you can train, and that you have the resources to give you that time to train. I had when I first attained the 2B level, I quit work for about 3 years and just devoted about 8, 12 hours a day. I was married and have a son, so it was difficult to do it, completely, because Korean women just have a problem with you if you're sitting around too much. So it was kind of a battle all the time with my wife, taking that much time out of the day, but I was able to do it. So you don't have to go out in nature necessarily.
Okay, what would be the general objective of Mopai? In other words, what would be the greatest benefits to practicing it?
Oh, from my term, or from my way of looking at it, is more involved with God. My belief is that we have to give back to God what He's given us, and by doing that, we have to benefit or help mankind. Whereas the Mopai, or John's aspect or outlook, is more personal, and that is, he says that his greatest desire is to reach all 72 levels, and when you reach that, then you've attained nirvana, which is all about the person and not really about anybody else. So I have some problems with the concept of training like that in a lot of the systems, because it's just mostly about the person and not giving back to God what He's given us.
Okay. For anyone who's training currently or thinking of training in Mopai or Qigong or any one of the internal arts, what would you tell them as far as some of the most important things to remember? Tips, if you will.
Oh, tips? Okay, well, before the tips actually take place or utilized, you have to be dedicated. You have to be completely focused, because if you're not, it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to, just say, oh, I'm too tired today, I'll skip it, do it tomorrow. But each time you train, is a building block that eventually will show itself in manifestations that everyone experiences at least in our system. And but the tips, is just oh boy, just being dedicated is most important. Being dedicated every day and making your training part of your day. I remember before I did any of this stuff, I was doing some weightlifting and workout stuff after work. I just immediately went from work over to the gym, and it became part of my day. So when I got home, you just sort of view it as, nothing more than going to work and, things like that.
Routine.
Yeah, just a part of the day routine. So you need to look at it this way. And it's such a routine now with me that I actually feel lost, or I feel empty, or I feel kind of guilty if I miss training.
Okay. What would you consider some of the most impressive things that you've learned to do, or that you are able to do because of MOPI?
Well, at this point, you really don't have any outward abilities yet. There are some, really small things that can occur that I haven't. One of them I haven't really attempted to try, and that is we're not supposed to hold our breath and hit somebody, because somehow there's a mechanical system that causes your energy to come out and affect somebody else. And I believe in the first video that Lawrence Blair had made, John says that's very important to control your anger, or you can really hurt somebody. So you have to be careful with that. And then the other little thing is he said that if there are people that have entities or they see ghosts, it's because their yang is low, and you can put your right hand on top of their head, and by virtue of doing that, there's some kind of an energy drain from you going into the other person, and you can increase their yang level, and that would enable them not to see ghosts anymore. My mom had experienced that, where she was had this little girl that would appear by her bedside. And so I told her about that. She says, "Oh, would you do that?" Because it was scaring her all the time. And so I did that. She never had that problem. So I guess it works. But anything else, I can't really. Oh, there was one time, a long time ago, a friend of mine had a dog that they had left, and they wanted me to walk it around the block once in a while. So while they were gone, so it was a real unruly animal, and it would constantly try to run around my legs, and I would get the leash, in and around my legs and stuff. And so I was getting kind of angry, and so I just whacked the tail end, just above the tail of the dog, out of frustration. And all of a sudden his legs collapsed, and he couldn't walk. And so I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was afraid to tell the people when they came back. And they took him to the vet, and the vet said that he was suffering from some arthritic condition or something. And then about a week later, the dog was running around again like nothing happened. So those are the only things that I can personally talk about.
Okay. You have said previously that there has been some false information about MOPI that has been floating around. Can you elaborate on that?
Oh, I'm trying. Well, I was for some time, reading some of the things on different forums and so on, and thinking it might be good for me to interject some thoughts, because a lot of people were saying things, what they thought the MOPI was about and what was going on, and I knew that they were completely false. But at the moment, I'm having trouble trying to remember some of the things that they were talking about. I don't know why.
In the Magus of Java, it's been said by some that the author of the Magus of Java embellished different parts of the book, exaggerated some of Chang's abilities, or perhaps some conversations took place in the book that did not actually take place in real life. Are you aware of anywhere where the Magus of Java was inaccurate?
Oh yeah. That would take some time to go over.
Now, can you give a Cliff's Notes version?
Again, I'm sorry, my memory is just not working too well at the moment. I wish I had gone over that so that I could talk to you about it, but I just can't recall.
Right, well, there's one spot in it where John Chang levitates, and you mentioned that he has partial levitation ability, but the author claims to see him completely float into the air.
No, John doesn't float. He does, since he does not have 100%, he can't float.
Right.
And he has to, since he has lessened his weight, he's able to jump, and that was something that he's been able to do, where he can lessen his weight, and he can actually jump 3 meters. I have not seen it happen, but that's one of the things that I've kind of bothered me was I was visiting with him, and I had my schedule all planned out, as I always do. And then just as I was leaving, he asked me to stay in subITA, where he lives, for another 2 weeks. And he said, I'll do what he does or whatever, meditate to develop the thing, because he wanted to demonstrate how he could jump over his house. And I said, I can't do it. It's going to cost me another, $200 or $300 change, and my tickets, and I got to get back to work. I only took so much time, and so I wasn't able to see it, darn it. But he has to jump, and with your muscle strength, if you only weighed 5 pounds, you could probably jump 3 meters yourself.
Right. So what level is Chang currently?
Well, I don't believe that he has spent any time, and that's what he usually does. He likes to take a few years away and away from everything. But the last that I know was he was at level 20.
Okay. You mentioned his goal is to reach like level 72. Did you say?
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to happen though.
Right. Is that even possible in one lifetime?
Yes. There was in the Mopai. John told me that there were 2 men that attained all 72 levels, and I can't remember, but Lau was at level, I believe, 32 or 35, one of the two, and then Pollock Min had reached, I think, higher level, and then Mayung Chin was allegedly, I believe, all 72 levels.
Okay. This is going into the realm of rumor and hearsay, I realize, but there must have been some talk when you were over there consorting with Chang and his students and others involved in the internal arts. What were some of the most amazing or remarkable feats of paranormal abilities or extrasensory abilities, telekinesis, pyrokinesis, and those types of things? What were some of the most amazing things you ever heard about that were possible with Mopai or any other system?
Well, as far as psychic abilities, you can get that in any meditation. And then some people are just more, have a greater capacity to do those things than others, just because of your physiology and, I guess your environment and a number of other things. But I know that they're real. Because I've experienced quite a few really crazy things. I shouldn't say quite a few, a number of them. But John has had some really strange events that have occurred where he actually goes into a meditative state, and he, I guess, goes into an out-of-body experience and visits spirits, and he communicates with them. He doesn't do that so much anymore, I found out, because for obvious reasons that he was having trouble with his ancestor spirit, and so he just wasn't calling on them because I guess he had some repercussions that were not fun. But he would actually have discussions with these alleged spirits that had passed away and were still roaming the earth. One of them that I recall offhand was he was some prior king or emperor or something that had killed. Let me back up a little bit. John told me that when someone dies and before they had died they had killed anybody, if they had killed anybody, it's something like 10 years for each person that they have to stay on Earth to make retribution or recompense or, for their crime. And this prince or king had been on Earth allegedly over, I don't know, a few thousand years because he had supposedly had killed so many people. And but those are kind of profound situations. I, however, don't have the same belief that they are, spirits from the dead. I believe that they're demons, demonic, taking on the appearance of dead people, because basically from the fact that they want to have association, because humans have many attributes they can't have, and so they seek to do that in ways of trying to appear as human. And the other aspect to that, they try. I know I'm getting off the subject a little bit, but it sort of leads me into that. These spirits seek your yin energy because they just don't have enough, and so they're trying to get that. And John always said, if you ever have any contact with a spirit, never trust them, because they're always trying to scheme in some way to extract the yin from you, and they have all different ways of doing that. So, but other paranormal things, stories that John has told me. I just can't recall at the moment a number of them that have happened. I'm more familiar with some of the crazy things that have happened to me than that's about it.
Okay, anything else, as you say, the crazy things that have happened to you, anything else that you have not discussed already that you could talk about?
Yeah, sure. I don't mind at all. They're just kind of unusual things. One night I was meditating. I used to live out in a rural area in Washington State, out in the woods, and I had a tent that I would use because it rains and needed to stay dry. But anyway, after I had finished, I was walking back to my house, and on the way back in the driveway, which was just gravel, there was a branch about an inch or so thick, with all the leaves and everything else broken off of it, and just like a stick, a walking stick or so, and it was standing up in the middle of the driveway. And the hairs on the back of my neck obviously went up, and I knew that there was, nobody had put it there because I had passed by there just no more than an hour earlier, and there was nothing there. And all of a sudden now this thing is standing on its end, balanced on its own. So I had an idea that it probably has something to do with the spirits. So I went over and got a chair, and I sat down, and I just observed it. And I sat there for probably 10 or 15 minutes, and then it started to dissipate and disappear. And then another time, let's see, I had picked up my future wife. I was taking her to work. I had picked her up, and we were taking my son to the nursery, and he was sitting in the back seat, and we're sitting in the front seat, and we're on the freeway, and I had just leaned over to kiss her. I don't know why. We were just talking. I just leaned over and gave her a quick kiss. And mind you, my son was just 2 years old, and not normally, or at least I've never heard of a 2-year-old being able to whistle. And you know how that wolf whistle guys give women?
Right.
Anyways, that happened. It came from the back seat. We're traveling at 60, 65 miles an hour on the freeway, and my wife and I hear this whistle from the back seat. And we both looked at each other like, what in the world is going on? And I looked in the rearview mirror, and she turned around and looked at my son, and he's just looking at us like, I don't know what's going on. So they do some really, really strange things. I bring those up to you because spirits don't have logical minds, and for whatever reason, they do some strange things.
There's a video that already exists that shows John Chang performing pyrokinesis. He sets fire to a crumpled up piece of paper, and it appears to be successful. It ignites. I mean, can you describe in layman's terms what's basically going on when Chang sets fire to paper?
Sure. He did that on several other occasions too, very spontaneously, I might add. But I had done some research on this, and I had found a book by this gentleman from Harvard University, and he was talking about how they were able to measure these frequencies that are emitted from your hand, and they said that there's something like 8 different types of energy frequencies that can be emitted, and so I'm assuming that's what it was with John when he does that. But he will actually in the second level and the 2A level and the 2B level, you're developing this ability to push your energy out of your hand, and in conjunction with some other things that you're doing to develop. But it prepares you to push your energy out of your energy point in the palm of your hand, and that's what John is doing. He's pushing his energy out, and that energy can, by how he manipulates it, can be manifested in different ways to utilize it. He can produce heat out of his hand, or he can burn things, or he can make electricity. So it's a number of ways that he can do that.
Do you have a book of your own, or something that you plan to put together with regards to your experiences that you yourself plan to write?
Yes, I have. In the beginning, I had wanted to just write it down so I could remember everything, and then I decided that more about leaving it for my son so he knows what his dad went through and things that happened and so on. Because if you don't write them down, a decade later, you forget about some of the intricacies. But anyways, yeah, I have been working on a book, and I've had a I'm not an author. And the people that I'm closely associated with have been encouraging me to do that. So anyways, it's kind of a fun experience, but it's really a hard thing to do. I wouldn't want to do it again.
Right. Will we find it available anywhere anytime soon?
Well, to be more specific, I'm about the 10th chapter, and I've written probably 22 chapters, I guess. When I say I'm on the 10th chapter, we're doing the rewrites, and I'm at the 10th chapter with the rewrite. So as soon as I have that done, then I'll see about having it published.
Okay. All right. That about wraps up the interview. Unless there's anything else you care to add or can think of to append to this.
I really can't think of too much other than if anybody's thinking of doing any type of training like this, that you just need to be dedicated. It doesn't come easy, and it takes a long time. There's a lot of discussions on the websites about how you can accelerate this and make it happen faster, and it doesn't. In the MOPI, we have to develop our Dantian, and that has to be stretched by continually compressing the yang energy into it, and there's no way that somebody can come along and make that happen any faster by interjecting their energy in you or something like that, because their energy is different than yours, and it doesn't fit in your body. And that's one of the things that John has been able to do, is he can displace your energy and make you sick. He can do a lot more than that, but he can expel his energy into someone else from a distance and make them practically throw up, on the spot, and because he's displacing the energy in you. And so when you get foreign energy into you, it's not going to stay because it doesn't fit your physiology or whatever it is, and you can't stretch anything or it'll tear. Like the Dantian, it's not a very strong fiber or existence, and it can be easily damaged. And so you have to be careful with things like that. But people seem to think that there's fast ways of doing it, and it can't. It takes time depending upon the system that you're involved in. I know that you're involved with the yellow bamboo system, and that's created in their direction, and the system that you go through to get to the end, or through the things, are designed so that you don't have problems to get to that point.
Right, level by level, so that you don't overwhelm yourself.
Exactly. So each system is in and of itself, and after thousands of years of existence, they've refined it to a point where you're going to be okay. Now, in the MOPI, it's really difficult. When people try to change anything, they can have a problem as far as getting sick, pretty quickly. So, and it's because it's designed in a way that you're not going to have a problem. But if you change anything, you can have problems. But any other things other than that, you just have to stick, exactly to the lessons, and not think you're some kind of master and you know how to develop, that whatever it is that you're trying to do. A lot of people seem to think they have the ability to start some kind of new system, when it really takes hundreds, if not 1,000 years to really refine it to get to a point where it can be a viable chi development.
Right. What do you think is next for MOPI, the whole system, the whole school? Do you think it will survive? Will it be carried over to the West, or does MOPI kind of end with you?
Well, in my personal opinion, I just don't see it ending for us or for me. I believe that while it may be looking like it's a dead end at this point, I really don't believe that, because there's just too many things that occur and that have occurred that lead me to deeply believe that it's still a viable direction for me. And I'm not giving up no matter what. There's always something out there that hasn't been found yet, and people will find it along the way, as long as you're, just by virtue of the fact that you're in that direction, it's going to happen. I don't think that the Indonesian MOPI will end at all. The new guy that has taken over the school seems to be more knowledgeable than John ever was, and he's kind of from what I understand, he's kind of a self-centered, egotistical character, because he's, at that point of leadership, and sometimes people let it go to their head. And he's continued, his school. He had students while he had separated from John, and then when he was called back to the headship of the school, he brought them into the school. And then with so much of the internet opening up, all this information, it has brought in a lot of other Indonesian students into the school. So it's growing. But my goal is to finish my current level, and then I've got some basic information on my next level, and I'm going to continue working on that, and hopefully eventually I can open this up to the West. That's really my goal. Open it up and let God utilize this information in the ways that He has planned for it. It's certainly not a dead end, in my opinion.
Right. The Mopai school in Indonesia, with the new teacher, they are probably pretty close-minded as far as admitting Westerners, correct?
Yes. Yeah. The new guy, the new head of the school, I am not familiar with him accepting Westerners. John has allowed them to be accepted into the school, and I don't know how he coordinates that with the other one. But he doesn't teach. Rather, he has a student come over and will teach them. And I know this for a fact because I'm in communication with a gentleman from Greece who went over and found John about 2 years ago or something like that. And that's what happened. He had a student come in and teach him, the first level.
Okay, so the Mopai will live on, and your goal, or what you would like to see at least, is to eventually open it up in the United States then?
Yeah. This is God's knowledge. It's not the Mopai's, it's not John's, it's not the new head of the school. It's God's knowledge, and God never, suppresses, those things that He's given us. And, but the Mopai, culturally speaking, they want to keep things isolated, and which can't glorify God, because how can you help people, when you keep it in a small area like that?
Right. It was mentioned in the Majas of Java that John Chang did not want to, in quotes here, create monsters, because if people progressed in Mopai with the intention of using it for nefarious purposes, they would be able to do that, and so he wanted to be absolutely sure he knew the kind of student he was teaching. And that was one of the reasons he was restricting it, excluding Westerners, and restricting it to the Indonesian people.
Now that you mentioned that, that's one of the things that I found that was wrong with the book.
Right.
That wasn't completely truthful. John never alluded to that concept that he was going to produce monsters. He, in fact, is one that wanted the school to grow because he was afraid that it would fall apart. And he never alluded to that concept that there would be monsters, as a result. However, a side note to that, by virtue of the fact that people meditate, creates, a kind of a spiritual development within somebody. Of course, you're going to have your, exceptions, but in my personal experience, I've come to learn more about my relationship with God and who He is, and a number of other people that I've talked to that are Westerners has also found that to be the case. And then one of the side notes to this that's really interesting is those people that have tried to become students and have trained in the Mopai system that had nefarious directions have come down with some dramatic illnesses that bumped them out. So it's kind of a self-regulating system, I think, in a way. But that's another thing that people have asked me about, how dangerous it is, or it's not dangerous if you do the right things.
Right, I've noticed that with other systems as well, other systems of meditation, that meditation raises a vibration, and when that happens, it changes the psychological disposition of people to make them yearn to do positive things. So it does kind of influence them as they walk along the path. It becomes, I'm not saying impossible to do negative things with the new abilities that you're given, but you're predisposed to use them for positive purposes, not negative, just by virtue of the fact that the meditation raises your vibration.
Yeah, that's a good explanation.
Right. Okay, this about concludes the interview. Thank you for talking to me for the past hour. And anything you care to add?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to do that. I know how a lot of people, are really looking, for something to do like this. And the MOPI may not be the right direction for them. There's other systems out there that may not be as strong or whatever, but it really doesn't matter as long as you're, trying to improve yourself and be involved in these things. You'll be okay if you do those kind of things.
To help people.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, thanks so much.
Well, thanks, Tom. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You bet. Hey, have a great day, Jim.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.